but literally physical movement was what healed me. Wow, I just took myself out of this darkest moment through fitness and still learned how to have fun and not, compete with myself and be too strict. How can I share this? And so then Tone It Up became.
We are known as this thing.
Mm-hmm. You're identified.
There's so much identity wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
It's getting maybe professional mental health. It's little practices to let these things out, these little whispers, I say, that we probably experience a lot, and then eventually they turn into a scream. And it's only until they're screaming at us through poor mental health, anxiety, illness, or physical health that most of us finally start paying attention.
And I said, Mom, let's not talk about regret. And I told her, I said, I am so proud of the woman I am today because you were my mother. So there is no regret. Let's talk about the good things. Still get emotional. Hi, I'm Karena Dawn. I'm excited to be here at Everford Radio, and I am the founder of Tone It Up and the Big Silence Mental Health Foundation, and I am very excited for this conversation.
What is it about getting quiet, getting still, do you think has the most universal capability for good for people, regardless of the thing they're trying to get still and quiet from?
I think it just calms your heart rate. It gives you peace. It gives you time. Once you can stop the chatter in your mind, and that comes from silence, then you can actually figure out what is important to you, what you want to do, what is your purpose. I think silence is the hardest thing. And not only, and I'm speaking from meditative silence versus, we're talking the big silence, which is mental health and the foundation I have, which is the things you don't want to talk about. But also there was someone who I had on my podcast, and I've gone to his retreats, and he always said, if you can't sit with yourself in silence, how do you expect anyone to sit with you?
Oof.
So I can't sit with you. If I can't sit with my husband, if I can't sit with me in silence and just be, what is that? Like, how can we not just be? Why do we always have to talk and have those thoughts?
It's like, what's the old adage? If you struggle to meditate for 5 minutes, you probably need to do it for 20 minutes, kind of thing. We could substitute meditate for, if you can't sit still and be in silence with yourself for 5 minutes, think about that energy. Think about that state of mind and being that you're bringing to every other person.
Energetically.
Exactly.
You're feeding that to other people and they feel that. I mean, as humans, that's what we do. Yeah. So, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at it at all. I've done a lot of work with it because that's been my healing process. But it's one of the best tools. And I know when I have anxiety and I wake up and my husband's like, we're meditating, getting that cold plunge. You're doing that. I'm like, okay, now I'm fine.
Before we kind of really deep dive more into the big silence and the mental health work that is so, top of mind for you these days, I know that you came from a very similar background as me, fitness, and really creating a life and creating platforms around taking care of the physical self. Why was that so important to you? Why was it so important for your personal life that you felt compelled and succeeded in such a great way to create options for physical fitness for others? Why was that such a endeavor for you?
It was because when I was in my darkest times, which you've had as well, and I was like, in my head, I knew there was something greater. There's something better. And how can I heal myself? And I think we've both had those dark times where we're like, I maybe don't want to be here anymore. And how can I heal myself naturally? And remembering of when was I my happiest? When was I my most joyful? And that goes to when I was a kid. I ran a half marathon and I crossed that finish line when I was 11, 12 years old. And it was this accomplishment and those endorphins. And so after 10 years of darkness from, a mother who was schizophrenic and it was a very dark youth, I started working out. And so I started in triathlon. I lived in LA here by the beach, and I would surf every morning. I switched from going to the clubs in Hollywood to
The
being
run clubs at 5 a.m. maybe.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah. Can't stay at the club and then go to the after party and then this and then get up and surf. So my medicine was making sure I had to be up at sunrise to go surf and then work out and train and do this and, never, and I'm all for anyone who needs, any kind of medication for mental health, but literally physical movement was what healed me. And so once I found that, I wanted to share that to other people and be like, and I still had fun and I'd go out with my friends and I'll have wine, I'll have a martini, whatever, and it's a message of like, wow, I just took myself out of this darkest moment through fitness and still learned how to have fun and not, compete with myself and be too strict. How can I share this? And so then Tone It Up became 15 years ago.
15 years.
15
years.
Yeah.
Wow. To walk us through a little bit of Tone It Up. For for the listeners that don't know, because this is a huge community.
Yeah.
Huge community in the fitness space.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was like when social media, before Instagram, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Aging myself there, but I love being in my 40s and being in a place that I am. But yeah, Tone It Up. So there's an app, there's nutrition products, but really the true, yes, the true meaning of it is just community coming together. That's my main thing. And the women that meet each other through fitness, whether it's community and Tone It Up, or you're going to Austin and Collective is a great community. And it's really just people coming together because the conversations always happen. For me, my friends and the conversations always happen through fitness. Don't you feel that way too?
Yeah, absolutely. Even if I don't have anybody that I'm training with at that moment, I talk to myself. I'm free flowing notes and ideas. And it's just, I would probably be talking the ear off of somebody with me. Instead, I just voice note myself. But it's so spot on.
Yeah. Anytime, whether it's you're checking in online, if you do a fitness app, or you're going to the gym and it becomes a social hour. I think through all the years and the ups and downs and having a company for 15 years, let me tell you.
That's impressive, especially these days in the fitness industry, fitness social media. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of evolution and it's not easy. And so I'm pretty damn proud of what was able to be built and to sustain. But there's, again, been the ups and downs in my own, emotional roller coaster with that. But I always go back to, all right, get out, move your body, meet people through social fitness, and it brings you back up again.
Kind of on the business aspect of it, to have a platform, to grow a platform. Now, I think last I looked, Instagram alone was over 1 million something followers. And I'm sure you have a lot of other ways that people get connected and stay connected. How have you seen the fitness industry evolve over the last 15 years? Do you think the addition of social media has benefited it? Is it a hindrance? What is your personal take on the fitness industry evolution for the last decade plus?
Well, let's go back to Instagram starting. We were the first fitness people on Instagram.
Wow.
And on YouTube. That was when YouTube was only music. The evolution, It's opened up a lot of doors.
Sorry, I just want to kind of paint a clearer picture. When you were on YouTube, do you mean like you all were you were posting workout videos, you were posting fitness content?
Yeah.
Really? Wow. Around what year was this?
2009.
2009.
Right?
Wow.
2009.
Wow. I remember around 2013 seeing people do this. My brother is one of them, still a really big fitness YouTuber.
Yeah.
Not so much a lot of fitness anymore, but even seeing him do it then in 2013, I was like, what? Many people were like, what is this? Where's this going? How's this going to turn into anything? You know, and that was like 4 years after you were getting started.
Yeah. So 2009. And that was kind of where our community, we started as a brand, and it wasn't even a brand. Our focus was community and bringing women together. And it came through YouTube, through Instagram, through this. It was all natural. And we just were there wanting to bring women together and in a place where women don't judge each other. Mm-hmm. And it just happened naturally. And, you know, became a business, became a large community of millions.
Okay, the business aspect.
Yeah.
How, from creating fitness content on YouTube before fitness YouTube was a thing, how did you turn it into a business? Was it just the traditional model of, we get a lot of views, we get AdSense? Was AdSense even a thing? How did you monetize fitness social media content, YouTube content at a time when it didn't really exist?
Right. I mean, we thought like Google ads would be like, we could make like $80,000 a year. Great. Awesome.
Not bad.
Okay. But then our community just kept growing naturally. Then it was the community wants XYZ. They wanted a nutrition plan. So we created one. And then they wanted a protein product, our recommendations. And we're like, well, there's nothing out there that goes with our nutrition plan, which is plant-based, or for protein at the time. And we're like, well, there's nothing out there that we believe in. So let's make our own protein.
It was kind of sketch. I mean, it still can be sketch now, but I feel like we've come a long way. But 2009, 10, 11, I mean, you were kind of rolling the dice, putting really, especially any protein product into your body.
Yeah. Well, we were plant-based, still are. Mm-hmm. I'm open to, this might be the first time I say this publicly, but I'm open to whey.
No way.
No way.
All right.
That used to be our saying, no way. But I am open to it. After all the years and all, everyone changes their workouts, their nutrition, if they're plant-based or they aren't. And, but so we formulated our own protein, and it was DTC, direct to consumer, and then Target, and then to many other doors.
Wow. Fascinating.
Yeah. It all happened.
And years before anybody else.
Yeah. And you know what? We got into Target because there was a Tone It Up girl in our community who went to the Target buyers and said, you got to have Tone It Up protein in Target.
So you got champions on the streets.
Yeah.
Basically. Wow.
Always.
Those are the best. What does it take? Because I know I have a lot of people in my audience and a lot of my peers in the space, just kind of with my background as well. Creating content, whether it's tutorial, how-to, whatever, especially in the health fitness space, putting it out there, then translating that to community, and then monetizing that community, whether that's you create a product, creating workouts, meal plans, coaching, things like that. There's a big disconnect, and it's problematic for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I also think and I've been there's an assumption that I create this educational and informative content. I am an expert, an authority, I have the scope of practice, have the certifications, whatever, that automatically it's just going to come in. And that's not always the case. How did you translate from content to currency?
I would say content to currency is authenticity. And that was always the thing. And it wasn't sell. It's the building, it's connecting. And truly, we were connecting with women. That was the time when I wanted new friends and community, and this is what I want. And we back in the day had so much content. We said content is queen. And it was coffee chats, why not Wednesdays, like really having girlfriend to girlfriend, woman to woman conversations with the community.
I see.
And then putting the products in there because the community asked, because we've connected with them through these
Because
coffee
they
chats.
asked. I think that's a crucial point.
Yeah. It's like, how can I, everything we've done is what the community asked for. We're like, okay. And then surveying and everything, like, okay, she needs this. It's what does she need for her lifestyle to be the healthiest? Okay, let's create that. She's asking.
That's really honestly it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really it. I've struggled along the way as a content creator in selecting what I feel is the quote right type of content to put out based on what I feel the demands of the community are in terms of what do people need for their health and wellness compared to what I am personally going through in my health and wellness.
Yeah.
You did. Okay. So I would love to get your input on that because there's struggle, there's friction, there's, especially when it's your business, I feel like the worst times I had as an online coach were when I was struggling the most with what to put out there because I was trying to meet the needs of people that weren't in alignment with where I was and where I was going. And the more I shifted to, Chase, this is where I am. Let's create offers, and then let's grow the audience and customers and clients along the way with me. Would you agree?
Yeah. And as you can imagine over, 15 years at Tone It Up, but then pre that triathlon, this, that, and creating what is authentic to me and what I feel comfortable. I struggle with creating content.
Really? It doesn't look like it to me.
I know. I do, though.
I'm a new follower.
But I know. Well, I want to because I want to provide. Over the years and what I provide, it has changed from HIIT workouts to weightlifting to then I became very into yoga and meditation. And there is some like, oh my gosh, you've changed so much. And I'm like, I'm allowed to change. I have gone from...
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, everybody's allowed to change.
Everyone's allowed to change and go through their seasons. And I think it's so important, especially in social media, to allow that. I went through another dark time when my mother passed away. And I was very sad and gained weight. And I was allowed to. I was having my season of, but everyone's like, oh, Karena, she doesn't look like she did when, in 2012. I'm like, that's 10 years ago. But anyways.
It sounds like you were getting, it could have been just a one-off or, maybe a group of people holding you up to the standard of, hey, I discovered you as this particular type of person. I interpreted you as this type of person. And when I think they say you've changed, you don't look this way, you're not creating the same content, you're not putting out the same offers. What I'm really hearing more, and I wonder if you agree, is it's when they say you've changed, it's them really saying how much they are still stuck in their old ways. If you're the same person holding on to the same things for what you look for in content, what provides meaning and value to you, to some degree, certain things I think will always be there. But what I'm really hearing is that they're still stuck in the past.
Right. And change is something that you should welcome. And do people complain about you?
I'm sure. I get a little bit here and there. The biggest thing for me, is kind of still talking through the lens of content creation.
Yeah.
So I really got my start on social media on YouTube.
Yeah.
I created a men's lifestyle, fitness, mostly kind of vlog stuff, but I would sit down and do some talk to the camera stuff about health and fitness. I do Q&As and talk about military and things like that. And this was 2013, 14, and it grew and I loved it. I still miss that kind of YouTube, that form of creativity.
Yeah.
But once I found podcasting, I started Everforward Radio 2-3 years later, maybe about 2 years later. I started putting podcast content on my YouTube channel and it killed the channel. People were like, no, what is it? No, more blogs. Exactly. And I was like, guys, if I make if it fits your macros, full day of eating one more time video, I'm going to blow my brains out. You can't, there's no way. And that was a struggle that I had personally. I'm like, I want to be creative. I want to create content. I also want to run a business, but I have to act, to your point, out of authenticity.
Yeah.
And so then I shifted. Then I got off that and just, now here we are. There's a lot of stuff in between, but you get the point.
Oh, that's great though. And I know I'm trying, and as we talk about shifts, I'm also trying, I am making a shift as well.
Can you peel back the curtain for us a little bit? What's the biggest shift you're going through right now, or describe it for us?
I have been a fitness expert, superstar, this, that for so long.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love working out and I do it for me. But I feel like there's been a lot of changes in our company, and we've taken private equity on back in 2018 and so many changes. And I've just like stuck with it and been there and wanted to be there because I love the community and I'm a passionate person to be able to help people in their lives to live their best life. And I've learned those tools and I've been through it all and the ups and the downs. And I want to have more of a voice which is a shift from, Tone It Up 2012 and have deeper conversations about life. I've been through a lot. I've been through marriage and this and death and discussions of divorce and 5 dogs and, just everything. And mental health, is a big passion of mine because I think that conversation needs to be talked about more. So that's when I started The Big Silence and the podcast. And so that's a shift even within Tone It Up. And the January challenge, I'm not teaching workouts. I'm having.
What does that feel like for you to step away from kind of the teaching role that you know yourself to be?
Yeah.
So many other people know you for.
Scary because I know there will be backlash. But we have trainers that I believe in, and I just actually want to have conversations with the trainers and doing this. And I'm not saying that I am not going to.
You get people fight the mic all the time. It's okay. They're resilient.
I'm not saying I won't teach workouts again on video. I still do private retreats and all and such, but I just felt like at this time there was some kind of shift going where I'm figuring out what I'm doing in the mental health space and my own podcasting and sharing a voice more than a movement. But I don't know. I'm very open to this.
You said something right there I think is very important to acknowledge. Figuring out what I'm doing.
Yeah.
How many of us, if we want to get very real, if we admit that out loud, how scary, but probably how freeing that is, especially when we feel ourselves or we feel in some kind of maybe public figure, community, social media way, we are known as this thing.
You're identified.
There's so much identity wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
Walk us through how you are giving yourself permission, how you are making space for not, my words, not yours, not knowing what you're doing, but allowing the space and container to figure that out.
I would say it's listening to my time in silence, that voice, that inner voice, really giving myself and thinking at this point in my life, like I've already accomplished so much and I'm probably my own worst enemy.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. Duh. We all are. We all are.
Usually. Yeah.
Even if it's like a little minuscule part or big. And, I constantly have to remind myself of everything that little Karena would have dreamed of has already surpassed.
So I'm hearing acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And probably appreciation, gratitude,
and taking a risk and not being afraid of having a shift in your life.
Say that again, please, for the audience.
Not being afraid of having a shift in your life. Because we're taught, I grew up in Indiana. I was supposed to graduate high school, go to college, didn't do either, get married and have children. Got married. But that was the plan. And so I think there's
someone else's plan.
Yes. Right. And so I think even at, 42, there's like, am I doing the plan? Should I be having children? Should I not? And I think I've gotten to a point where I'm just allowing freedom.
Wow. Allowing freedom. It's interesting you said freedom there. I kind of was almost expecting to hear surrender. What's the difference in your mind between freedom and surrender? Is there?
I actually think they are very aligned together. It could be the same thing. I think I've always, for the past 2 years, my mantra has been peace and freedom. I think freedom from a lot of my past, from my, work and there's, stress of things of not having control, just all this stuff. My mother passing away and being a caretaker and other just stuff and the stressors of life, like let it go. Let it go.
So letting go, maybe it's the surrender part comes first and then freedom because of surrender.
Yeah. Have you gone through that?
Abso-fucking-lutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And personally, on the other side of it, if you had met me 3 years ago, I would not be the same person. In most ways, I would not be the same person that I'm, here today. And on the other side of it, it's so kind of just like, duh. Like, of course, it's the simple little things that we all hear about. It's about taking care of your body and your mind. It's community, like to your point. It's getting maybe professional mental help. It's little practices to let these things out, these little whispers, I say, that we probably experience a lot, and then eventually they turn into a scream. And it's only until they're screaming at us through poor mental health, anxiety, illness, poor physical health, that most of us finally start paying attention. Not to say that it's too late, but it's only until we have to go through some major event that we finally realize, oh, I could have been doing these other things all along the way. Little mini surrender, little mini other practices that would have given me this freedom that I'm so grateful for now.
Yeah. And I think that's also that freedom that you're grateful for now is that trust in yourself.
Oh
and
my
that
God,
and
yes.
that worthiness.
Yes. Yeah.
That you are worthy because, raised a certain way, and being able to find that worthiness is so important.
One big thing for me that has made monumental shifts in my life as a whole, but especially my mental health, kind of shifting into the mental health part of the conversation now, I realized that a lot of what I was after in my physical health, in terms of the type of exercise that I would do, the type of body, in terms of body weight, body composition that I would strive for and strive to maintain, this kind of like physical identity that I was seeking. The more that I prioritized my mental health, and the more that I uncovered big T and little t traumatic events and worked through them, I won't say that my physical health took a back seat. I still am an active person. I believe in and condone regular physical activity and exercise, but why I do it has changed tremendously.
Oh, yeah.
The style of training has changed tremendously. Literally, like a switch goes off in my head of like, well, Chase, why are you really working towards a 500-pound deadlift? Like, why do you really care?
Can you do that?
I was this past year and a half, I got up to 455.
Okay.
And it was during that pull, I actually had an injury, tore a bicep tendon and a forearm tendon, like a partial tear, but enough to really kind of take me out of the deadlift game. I haven't deadlifted in probably 6 to 8 months now.
Yeah.
But it took that injury to really wake me up.
Yeah.
And go, Chase, why? And I was kind of unpacking this with a few friends, again, community, and I was reminded of this kind of event that I had with my late father. I was, I think, 18 years old, and I had just come home one time on leave from the Army, and this was kind of right towards the tail end of my dad's illness, right before he passed away. And I was over at a friend's house, and I got a call from my stepmom, and she's like, "Hey, can you come home? Your dad fell out of his chair, fell out of bed or something. And with ALS, he can't move his own body.
Right.
And she couldn't get him off the floor. Can you come home and help me get your father up? Of course. So I come home. I couldn't pick him up.
Mm.
I myself could not pick up my father. And this was a big army man himself, at his prime, a little over 200 pounds, big stocky guy. Of course, he had withered away significantly. But I think he was probably at about 160 pounds, 170 pounds. And I could not pick him up off the floor. I struggled. And it took my stepmom and I quite a bit of time to do it together. And I remember just completely breaking down. And I had this crying conversation on the phone with my best friend at the time of just like, I'm useless. I can't even help. I can't help my family. I can't help my dad. I can't pick him up. And I realized how much I carried that literally up to the bar. I would walk up to the deadlift bar. It gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Like, that's why. But the last couple of years, I had worked through all that with my dad, leaps and bounds beyond what it used to be. I don't care anymore. Like, I would like to, I'm still going to go deadlift here and there, but like, I'm not chasing 500 pounds anymore. Like, I worked through that.
Yeah. No, that's so interesting how that was ingrained in your brain. Like, I need to be able to do my job as a human for another human, or, that's so I've been very into mobility now. Mm-hmm. And the importance of that, even if some days I don't lift weights or go do cardio, mobility and yoga and all of that is just so important. And you learn that because I see that even in my dad.
Mobility is freedom. Sorry to interrupt you, but just to our freedom point, mobility is freedom.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to be able to move. We need to be able to not have the aches and pains. And and I even see my dad, and when he was here for Thanksgiving, was teaching him like mobility moves in my gym. And like, you got to do this, Dad. Like, this is so important because the day that you can't get out of bed, that's going to suck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll wrap all that up by just by saying, this is kind of my challenge maybe for the listener. We've heard this for how long? Know your why in whatever you do, but really bring that into your physical fitness, your whatever training modality you have, yoga, powerlifting, bodybuilding, whatever it is. Why is it so important to you? Why that training style, that frequency, that intensity, why is that so important to you? Sometimes it might just be for the physical aspect, but the more I understand the physical and the mental self, I've come to realize that a lot of why and how I show up to the gym has a lot more to do with my mental health and the emotional aspect than really anything I'm trying to overcome physically.
Yeah, I agree with that. It used to be, it was very healing in my early 20s, the triathlon, that was my therapy. And then it became very much aesthetic to me. Mm-hmm. And I think that goes back to some childhood things with my mom when I was a very lean little girl and she put me on a diet, there we
go.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
And then I was like, wait a second. And then I was like rebelled against fitness for a while and secretly.
Rebelled against mom, it sounds like.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Little Karena.
And definitely rebelled against mom. Mom always wanted me to be in shape. So now, I feel like I've gotten a very healthy relationship with food and such, but why I work out now, it's all mental. And I definitely have, I was going off rebelling for a few years and then now getting back into it, it's hard. But once you're back into it, but that is the thing. Like, if you can wake up in the morning and put it in your calendar that you are going to move your body, whatever it may be, go to the gym, do an app, go for a walk, go for a hike, do push-ups, lift weights at home. If you accomplish that in the morning, you already mentally are feeling more powerful for the day.
So true.
Accomplishing that. And even for me, my husband, we're like, okay, this is non-negotiable. This is, and when one of us says, I don't want to this morning, we say, this is a non-negotiable. We're doing it.
You might have kind of already just said it, but I wanted to ask you directly, what is one thing you do that you prioritize for your physical self and for your physical well-being and mental well-being daily? What are non-negotiables for you? One for each.
Moving your body and meditation
Okay.
and staying hydrated.
Team water.
Team water. But that's a lot of people don't talk about is the importance of hydration for your mental health and for your body and everything.
Team water, team electrolytes.
Yeah.
Team sodium, potassium, magnesium. I mean, go down a rabbit hole on that, but especially for mental health. I mean, how many of us are walking around with poor connectivity due to lack of minerals and electrolytes beyond just the dehydration aspect? Like our brains literally cannot function without it.
And I think there's a misconception of, less sodium, high blood pressure, this, that.
Team salt all day long. Team salt all day long.
Yeah. The high blood pressure this is my own personal experience.
This is a safe space. That's okay. You're good.
It's not from the salt you're consuming. It's from your stress. It's from not working out. It's from other environmental conditions. And I am team salt as well.
Yeah, I down. You familiar with the brand Element?
Yes. Love it.
I probably go through about usually like 2 a day.
Yeah.
2 packets a day. Yeah, and then I'm also like Salt Bay. Team sea salt in my food. It's just, of course, get your blood work, know all your baseline stuff. But yeah, people really underestimate salt from a hydration, electrolyte aspect. But I'm dead serious. Brain health, mental health as well.
Yeah. Now I went through a period where I've always had like perfect blood pressure. And then there came a time where pandemic, mom dying, stopped working out, stopped meditating, and I had high blood pressure. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, let me take a look here.
Yeah, let me take inventory of life right now.
My friend was like, you just got to reduce salt. I'm like, I don't think that's it.
We don't need friends like that.
Yeah.
So you have mentioned it a few times. You've talked about your mom's passing. And if you're comfortable with it, I'd like to kind of invite Linda, right?
Yes.
I would like to invite Linda into the conversation because I feel like this was probably the reason for or a heavy influence when you really went from more physical fitness personally and professionally into this mental health shift. What was it like being a caretaker for someone that was mentally unstable? What was it like setting boundaries with her, with you, with your family, and navigating that loss?
Linda has been a wonderful teacher to me. I still get emotional. So I was with her the last 3 days when she was in hospice. And finally, day 2, I call it. She said, I love you. She confessed to, not confessed, but she said it's not her physical health, it's her mental health because she was afraid of the stigma of her diagnosis of schizophrenia and her depression. And she got upset at me about the work I do around mental health. And finally she said,
Wow.
I'm happy for what you're doing. And sorry.
You're fine. No apology needed.
What was it like? Being a caretaker is very hard. And it happened right after I got married. So my husband was brought into that. We had to do classes together through NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness, and a family-to-family course that was 13 weeks where he could educate himself on mental illness and how to have empathy and learn about medications and 5150s and all of this. But he really stepped up. It was beautiful. And it affected our marriage quite a bit.
I'm sure.
He was like, yay, honeymoon, and come home and mom's in the hospital. And then we're taking care of her for, 5 years. But here's another thing when we talk about fitness and nutrition. She was in the hospital for 3 months for a blood disorder. And she was also homeless for many years and didn't take care of herself.
Wow.
But the doctors said, let's put her in hospice. She has 2 weeks tops. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. Like little Karena was craving a relationship with her mother. And I said, my mom's back in my life. Nope, not doing hospice. I actually switched her diet because I cleaned out her house and there was all fast food trash and empty vodka bottles and this and that. And changed her diet, started having her drink green juice, started having her lift water bottles.
Wow.
She lived 5 years.
Wow. With a previous estimated diagnosis or
two
prognosis,
weeks.
I guess, of 2 years? 2 weeks?
No, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Wow.
Changed her diet, salads, protein, green juice, this,
Damn.
and getting her walk. She couldn't walk from here to where you're sitting. And she started walking again. And 5 years. That was just nutrition and also, moving her out into nature and getting the right doctors. But that just...
There's that environment aspect, bringing full circle from our beginning.
Yeah.
Talk about an energy shift, lowering stress, lowering cortisol, just, getting reconnected with you, establishing community.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. She was very isolated before, which isolation is... I had a podcast with a doctor and he was saying that isolation is it's worse than smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Mm-hmm. It's the most cruel form of punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez.
But anyways, being a caretaker is not easy. And there are a lot of people out there that are caretakers. And we all will quite possibly be at some point in our life. And it's a hard thing. And that's where then you take that toolbox. You have to take care of yourself, because I do believe there was a time where I did not take care of myself because it was all about her, taking care of her, and talking to doctors, doing this, and I am still working through that trauma.
In some ways, I've been in very similar shoes with you. I wasn't able to be around my family and my father as much as I wanted to then.
Yeah.
I had just left for the military. And so the caretaker was really my stepmom and my grandmother for a little bit, but mostly my stepmom. What I'm witnessing now, as we're recording, we're coming up on January 2024, will be 19 years since my dad passed.
Mm-hmm.
And in many, many ways, I feel like now, as far as I have come working through his death and mourning that relationship and even grieving my own identity loss of, having father, having hero to, son that's alone in the world, I'm realizing there's this whole other part of that grief journey that I'm now unpacking. And that's the other caretaker, the other people in my family that I'm realizing, like, we all went through the same experience, but we had a different experience.
Mm-hmm.
And caretakers, I think that's something that I wasn't able to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a whole other thing I'm trying to process.
Yeah. And even let's talk about grief too, because even 19 years later, you still have that grief. Mm-hmm. And I get a lot of questions about grief and how to work through it. I'm like, girl, it's okay. It can last your entire life. You can miss that person. You can have your whatever relationship issues. But then now with you going back, like with caretaking, what are you afraid of or concerned?
I'm realizing that good question. I think I'm realizing how it is still showing up, how that grief is still showing up in the relationships I have with family members that were more of the caretaker role, if that makes sense. Because I feel like, okay, I've navigated more of the grief of that loss, right? And they have too, to some degree. But now there's like this whole other dynamic of, okay, now I need to work around like kind of the loss that you and I had a little bit, because you were this whole other role. I knew you as this one person, but really you were this one person and caretaker. And so now I'm having to navigate this other kind of loss, really.
Do you like guilt?
Confusion, frustration. And the biggest thing I'm struggling with is not letting that confusion and frustration drive a wedge in that relationship, and just acknowledging that they are grieving, most likely they are grieving kind of again, or there's this other quadrant, like I said, as the caretaker role versus whatever that familial role was, that I'm having to remind myself to, okay, is this me? You know, maybe there's a little bit of ego here. Is this me getting frustrated with this person, this relationship? Or do I just need to recognize that they still have things to go through, you know?
Yeah.
Because I can't relate to caretaker. I can only relate to the loss part.
Yeah. No expert here, but I think for me personally, what has helped me heal, because my sister, love her, she's the executive director of the foundation, and we talk every day now. And actually, after Linda passed, we have a better relationship. But she had stepped away, different relationship with Linda versus me. You know, I have come to a point where I don't want to sound, just be grateful that people are in your life, grateful for life, to be able to wake up, and grateful for every experience, and allowing people and family members and friends to have their own experience, and you yourself just be a good damn person and stop putting too much pressure on ourselves. Because when you look around, like, we should be enjoying this. And there's a lot of trauma in the world. But how can we focus less on trauma and focus more on the joys of life? And that's one of the things, even in the morning when I'm still laying in bed with my husband, I'll turn over and be like, all right, what are 3 things you're grateful for this morning? And he's like, I hate it when you do this.
Sounds like Switch as well. If I did that for my wife, she'd be like, shut up, leave me alone.
He hates it. And so he's like, I don't want to be coached this morning. I'm like, I'm not coaching you, but I was like, maybe I, need this. And like, I was like, how about the 5 Pomeranians in bed or the roof over our head or this beautiful sunrise, just simple things. Because I think we focus so much on like this person and this and what their thoughts are and our thoughts in our head. We have 80,000 to 100,000 thoughts, per day. And I think that's for 2024, positivity and gratitude. And I know there's clearly so much going on in this world.
There always is, right?
It always
is.
But how can we be that light, and not contribute to that energy?
Before I get to my final question.
Yes.
You have this passage from your book, or there is this passage from your book that I love. How through all of life and all of your professional career and all of the loss and Linda, you would come back to this reminder for yourself and for the reader and for the listener now to keep note of lessons learned along the way. Quote, this is healing, find the love. Why do you think we usually fail to pay attention to lessons learned along the way and only after we endure pain, loss, and suffering?
Because we're not staying present. We aren't realizing, I'll go back to Linda passing away. She spoke of regret.
At the end.
In hospice the last 3 days. And I said, Mom, let's not talk about regret. And she, I told her, I said, I am so proud of the woman I am today because you were my mother. So there is no regret. Let's talk about the good things in life. And she had a very hard life, but I don't know if I'm answering your question appropriately, but I'm just thinking of how we bypass all of the beautiful things. And I think we need to pay more attention to that. And just love more. I don't think I answered your question, but
no, I mean,
that was just what came
to be
in my
more
head.
present. And, literally your quote in this section was, this is healing, find the love. To love more, find the love in the pain.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's always, and we always hear this isn't happening to me, it's happening for me and such. But it is true. Like how I wouldn't have been able to get where I am today again, through my youth and all the destruction, unless I found in this one moment where I said, life is not meant to be this terrible way. It's meant to be something great. And that was in Hollywood after a 3-day bender in a park. And I was like, Karena, you are meant to be, life is meant to be lived. Like we're, out of all the odds to be here, we are here.
Just the fact that we're here, I forget the statistic I hear keeps changing, but it's like we are a 1 in a trillion
billion
or something.
400 trillion. I don't know.
The odds of you being you, me being here is like a 1 in a some trillion chance, So lean into that, own that, surrender to it.
And I think that's a great way to wake up in the morning too. When I'm talking to my husband, I'm like, what are you grateful for? I'm like, you are 1 in 500 trillion.
You're welcome, first of all.
You're next to me.
Well, Karena, thank you so much for being here, being so present, being so open and honest and vulnerable and all the things and sharing your life story. You've been through so much. You've done so much. A great testament to a phrase that I remind myself of often and say on the show a lot. And that's where the mind goes, the body will follow.
Yes.
And so with that, I want to ask my final question. Moving forward in life, living a life ever forward, how do you do it? What do those 2 words mean to you here today?
In the present moment, this is really important to me, especially moving into 2024. Only say yes to what feels right in my gut and my heart. And knowing, because I'm the type of person that'll just keep giving. Try, work, do it till the end until I burn out. Ever forward for me is staying true to myself and like, Karena, your gut knows what you're supposed to be doing.
There's no right or wrong answer. I always appreciate everyone. And I'm curious to, coming up on 7 years now of the show, I've had several repeat guests, and I'm always even more excited to kind of hear the next one. So next time I'm excited to hear what yours is as well. Yeah. I feel like there's a lot on the horizon, and I know you're going to make it happen. Yes. So I'm excited for you.
That's right.
All right. And I'll see you soon.
Yes, in Austin.
We're going to hang out and do the big silence.
Yeah.
Do you do the big silence? Do you sit in the big silence? What's the right word there? We're gonna big silence.
Big Silence Podcast, Austin. We'll see you next week.
We're going to have all of your information down in the show notes and video notes for everybody, but where can my audience go to get plugged into your world? What are you doing most these days?
thebigsilence.com, KarenaDawn.com, Karena Dawn on Instagram, Big Silence on Instagram.
We didn't really kind of unpack a little. Can you kind of share with us, what is the Big Silence? Besides the podcast and your mental health focus now, like what is the thing?
Yeah. So the Big Silence was founded in 2021. We're a mental health foundation. So we have a program called Therapy for All, which our donors provide therapy for someone who can't afford therapy.
Oh, wow.
As a lot of therapists don't take health insurance, and a lot of health insurance doesn't cover therapy. So we have therapists in our network. You can go to this bigsilence.com, sign up for therapy. And that's the main program. We have other programs too and other resources, but that was really important to me because realizing when I was a kid, I needed therapy, didn't know where to go. Mm-hmm. My mom needed therapy. It's very expensive. Mm-hmm. And so it's important to be able to share the therapy.
That's huge. Thank you so much for that offer. That's a big help, no doubt. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.